that he knew I appreciated and loved him. No matter what. No matter what. No matter what the condition. There's that word. What? No matter what the condition, I still am able to show love, compassion, and appreciation to my son. Which is more important? The hole in the wall or the way my kid thinks I feel about him?
I would say the second.
I would say.
Can I tell a story now?
I would love to hear something from you.
So my family, I had a huge family. My aunts and uncles and everybody and grandma and grandpa all took turns taking care of us. So all the cousins were more like brothers and sisters than cousins, really. And some of the aunts were more loving and nurturing than others, as were some of the uncles. And some of the aunts were nicer to the cousins than they were to their own children.
Weird. Huh?
As were some of the uncles. Mm-hmm. So my mother and I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but I talked back a lot. My mom always said that she couldn't tell me what to do from the time I learned how to talk. And I remember times just really talking back to her. So I used to get spanked a lot. Mm-hmm. And they didn't get it out of me, though. They didn't get that sass out of me.
They did not.
I think, like, at this day and age, it would have been considered child abuse.
Mm-hmm. Which a lot of things are nowadays that were considered normal
right.
back then. So we're not going to pose any judgment on anything.
Right. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, I was hugged and loved and kissed on and by all my relatives, mm-hmm. Not just my parents.
Didn't that make you feel awesome?
Yes. And because I was adopted, I never felt adopted, mm-hmm. which is, I think, says a lot for that family, except for my dad's side of the family. But my mom's side of the family never made me feel adopted.
I mean, you could feel less, but you could also feel more. So it's good you didn't feel more either, because you could have felt like, hey, my mom chose me.
And that's what my mom used to tell me to tell the kids at school when they made fun of me. Because it was never a secret that I was adopted.
Right.
Which was
good. And it's cool your mom chose you, but that, again, you don't want to make it less, make you feel less or feel more. So,
right.
Okay.
So when I had children, of course I questioned a lot how I should raise them, because I was spanked, and I'm sure that my mom and her brothers and sisters, I'm sure they got the tar beat out of them when they were little. I mean, some of the stories that they told. So, it changes every generation. I think it improves. I think that's part of our natural evolution. Mm-hmm. And I always told my boys when they were growing up that I loved them, and they always told me that they loved me too. And we went through some tough times together. Mm-hmm. And throughout that, we loved each other. And both of them have told me, and now I'm going to start crying, what a difference I've made in their lives. And one lives in California now, and just yesterday, one lives in California and one lives in Ohio. And just yesterday, and I do this frequently, I texted both of them, I love you. And within seconds, I got I love you backs. Mm-hmm. And
because it's normal for them.
Right, it is.
Isn't that beautiful?
It is. And when I see my son Mike that just had a baby with his soon-to-be wife, when I see the way they treat each other with the respect, and they say I love you in front of people and with smiles on their face, and when Mike does something quirky, Christine will go, I love you, Mike, mm-hmm. and it just warms my heart so much.
And you're part of that.
Right.
Because you planted those seeds.
Right.
Isn't that beautiful?
So, and I think as moms, there's no more important job.
That's right.
Than being a mom.
And, it's so easy to get caught up in frustration.
Oh, God, yes.
You spoke of spanking, and I believe there's a difference between spanking a child hurting them and spanking a child disciplining them. And it really depends on your attitude, the person who's doing the disciplining, their attitude at the time, their restraint at the time, their purpose at the time. Is it as a lash out in anger and frustration? Because if it is, you're beating your kid.
Oh, true, right.
If it's a disciplinary process and it's controlled and you're restraining yourself and you're not in a mind frame, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I don't think that's beating your kid, because I think there are, disciplinary actions that in some families work, that others don't agree with.
And also on some children.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it depends.
I would have to get up and walk across the room if my oldest one, he was so strong-willed. If he was doing something that he shouldn't have been doing, I had to get up and walk over there and slap his little hand. Mm-hmm. No, that's not yours.
Because he wouldn't stop.
Right.
And there's a difference. And that's what I mean by restraint. You didn't smack him. You didn't do it out of anger. You were just trying to correct him in the only way that he could understand at that moment, because he was little. He was
exactly.
Little to
and
really
we
know.
could go anywhere, and that kid wouldn't touch things.
Right.
At Grandma's house, he wouldn't touch things that he wasn't supposed to touch. And now, so often, I see children that just, you have to, lift everything up so they don't get it. They are not taught.
And again,
to respect other people's stuff.
I have no judgments either way as far as discipline goes, but I am definitely not for hurting people in anger. And that goes physically and verbally. So just because somebody doesn't spank you doesn't mean that their words can't slash through your heart.
Oh, sometimes that does more damage.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm getting at. I love my babies unconditionally. Unconditionally. There's no condition. That's what unconditional means. No condition. No condition, not only that I won't love them, but also now what I'm trying to practice is that I can't express things that way. Like, let's say I'm upset with them, which I get upset with them. They do things that are silly, or, I know they know better, but they do it. They make a bad choice, and I want to yell at them. But now what I do is lovingly and compassionately, I express whatever it is I need to tell them in a loving way. I'm not judging them. I'm merely pointing things out and asking them to change the behavior, but I'm not mean.
Right.
I'm not angry. I'm not yelling. I'm not cutting their hearts with words. I'm not, trying to be as venom-filled and vindictive and nasty and you hurt me, so let me hurt you.
Right. Yeah, that's what's bad. A big thing in our house was, what did you learn from that?
Yeah.
And there were times when they have said that to me, mm-hmm. because that, they would get reprimanded for doing something really silly, and, and they would get sent to their room, and pretty soon I'd go in there and I would say, what did you learn from that? And as they got older and I would do something out of character or something, they would say to me, what did you learn from that, Mom?
I love when our words come back to haunt us, don't you?
Yes.
That means they listened.
Right.
Hey, that's wonderful.
That's right.
So let's extend that a little bit. Let's talk about, what if it isn't your family? Of course we love our children unconditionally. You and I do. That's beautiful. But what if it isn't our family? What if it's the guy in line at the market who keeps running his cart into the back of your heels? What if it's the lady who cuts you off in traffic, and because she cut you off, she flips you the bird? What if it's, this is what I'm talking, it's our fellow man. Can I not extend to them the same type of love and compassion in the way I react to them as I would my children? I think I can.
Yes, you can.
I think I can.
Even though your initial reaction might not be a kindness.
Right?
in your head, but if you can just turn it around really quick and bless them.
You really can. It's really possible. It's hard, but it's
there
possible.
Are times that it's more difficult than others. Yeah,
it's possible. And that's what I'm talking about. When we love each other and we love humanity unconditionally, that's without condition. A condition is somebody who keeps knocking into you with their cart. That's a condition. I don't know why he keeps doing it. I don't know if he even knows he's doing it. It's irritating the poop out of me.
And you can make a joke out of it.
But I'm not going to turn around and yell at him and tell him.
But you could turn around and say, are you doing that on purpose?
Yeah, I mean, I could engage him in
Right.
a nice way.
Right.
I could turn around and I could say, as much as I really like knowing you're back there, I feel like you want to say something. Hi. You know, I mean, there's so many different ways you could approach that rather than turn around and, what the heck? You know, and yet that's what people jump to. Especially, and you would think they would have more love this time of year, but because they're under so much stress, you know, a lot of times they have less patience with others and less, I'm not going to say less love, but less ability to express it in that way, in those ways.
Yes.
What do you think of that? That's some Christmas spirit there. That's some Christmas
That is
joy.
some Christmas spirit, and that should be with us all the time.
It should be. So I just want
Interesting.
people to start realizing, listen to yourself, listen to how you react to things. And yes, I'm not saying it's easy. I mean, it can be very difficult.
Even your tone of voice.
It does. It makes such a difference. And if I start off like this, I'm going to get angry because I'm setting myself up for
Right.
that mood. But if I start off like this, I'm like, I'm not giving that very much power.
You could just about say anything that you wanted with that look.
I kind of can.
You know what? You're
I'm
like really stupid, and I don't like that you're doing that. But hey,
I love you anyway,
I'm
man.
good.
Merry Christmas to you. I hope you have, blessings.
you know,
today.
we had a law of attraction class on Saturday, and we were talking about not letting other people influence our well-being.
How hard is that?
It is very hard, but we gave ourselves some tools to help us deal with that, and you just have to pause and take a couple breaths and make yourself come across the way that you mean to come across.
Right.
If it is
don't react so quick
Right.
either, because that's when we get into trouble. Because your first reaction, your gut instinct is fight or flight. So it's like, "Rrr," or
and you can say, right now I'm really upset. Give me a couple minutes.
yeah, let me simmer down. Give me a sec. I'll be good. Just a second.
Because
I'll
some
come
of
back.
the most horrible things are said when people are angry. And sometimes you mean them, and sometimes there are things that happened long time ago that really should be forgotten by now. And if you get into that frame of mind, the other person is going to get defensive, and it's just going to turn into that. "Arr, arr, 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 arr." And that who benefits from that? Nobody.
That's right. Nobody benefits from it. In fact, it just makes things go on and get worse and worse and worse. And that's where we find ourselves at war eventually. That's where,
Right.
it starts somewhere is what I'm saying. Okay, so you brought up a really good point. And it's something I wanted to talk about too. You said that that in the law of attraction class, you were talking about how you need to find happiness regardless of the conditions around you. And that's really the same thing. It's just unconditional love for oneself, right?
Yes.
Think about that.
It is.
Unconditional love for oneself. So loving myself means I want to be happy, I want to appreciate, and I want to be full of gratitude. If I love myself, those are the three conditions I must meet. I want to be happy, I want to appreciate things, I want to have gratitude, okay? So, in order to have that, I have to have unconditional love for myself, because in order to appreciate where I sit or where I stand in this time space